All right, and I think we are now live. So welcome everyone to the fifth live stream of the Music Hack Space. Today we are receiving Andrej Kobal. Hey, Andrej.
Hey, how are you doing, JB?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much. All right, and I think we are now live. All right, and we have both streamed the audio from the feed. So where are you based, Andrej? Where are you calling us from?
Yeah, I'm based in Slovenia. I'm in a small village called Vrhpolje. We are like around 400 people, and yeah, I'm also based in my studio. Yeah, so I'm mostly working here now.
Great. And how is the lockdown affecting you and your work?
Yeah, I mean it's it's quite problematic because I have like a few presentations to do with my program and some concerts and working with other people. So it's definitely affecting my work and as everyone else. Luckily, I'm not so involved in live show and that stuff, but I work with people that are in that, and so that's a problem for them because yeah, there's nothing happening now. So yeah, we are a bit limited to working in our studios and working remotely, and so yeah, it's affecting definitely, like all the musicians.
For sure, it's affecting everyone. And throughout this series of talks, we will ask everyone who joins, if they have tips and tricks and how they cope, so that people who watch, also can get some inspiration. And if you want to share, if you're watching and you want to share your tips and tricks, please do so in the chat. So a few house rules. So I'm JB. I'm the one who writes behind the Music Hack Space handle on the chat. I will read this when Andrej speaks, and he also has a way to monitor what's happening there. So if you have questions, he will answer to you directly. Yes, so yeah, I'm very happy to receive Andrej today. Andrej has worked on Granurise for 7 years, and mostly his inspiration at first was as a composer, building it for himself, and also inspired by multi-dimensional controllers like the Seaboard RISE or the Instrument. And he contacted Rolly 5 years ago, and I was working there at the time, and I was very impressed by the work that he did to showcase how granular synthesis could be a versatile technology to be controlled by this controller. And so 5 years after he had already a prototype working, he's finally releasing it, and it's a real pleasure to have him here presenting Granurise. So without further ado, I will ask Andrej to share his screen and show the software to you.
Thanks so much, JB. I would like to thank you at this occasion for supporting my work. Since its beginnings, it wouldn't be the same without you, without your enthusiasm, which is also mine, and I was really happy that you basically you have contacted me at that time, and that I was able to to present it at Rolly. And I would also like to thank you for doing this series as we talk. The lockdown is affecting us all, and it's really important that we have some resources and that we can learn about others' work, and so that's really essential. So congratulations again on the Music Hack Space, and I'm really thrilled to be here. So thank you. Yes, as you said, Granurise started. Mostly from my necessity to build a custom instrument that will somehow fits my needs. As a more, I don't consider myself a real software programmer or something, but more, let's say, a musician or a sound designer. And I was looking for tools that would help me realize my musical ideas. And I have tried a lot of synths and virtual instruments and a lot of stuff during the years, and I couldn't find some elements that were really important to me. One of them is definitely the sampling part. That that I can take a little sample and transform it and use it as a, on one hand as an effect, and on the other hand as an instrument, so as a virtual instrument. So that was important for me. And so I started to build my own tool, and then evolved to a lot of other things. I would like also to put out that now I have gained there. I'm not just me doing this software recently, but also Boštjan Pirnar is involved, who is a good friend of mine and an amazing audio engineer, and he's helping a lot with software. And there is also Aleš Krebs, who is doing the, let's say, more the graphical design. And we are all musicians, so we have this passion, and I'm really glad that they join in. And then I'm also working with a lot of other people, and I'm really glad that, as you mentioned, the folks from Rory like it. So I'm working with Konstantin and in other teams from Roly and Ableton and Cyclic, and so it's a huge privilege for me that these companies are somehow recognizing my work, because I really admire what they do, and I know that you are involved also in cycling, so I really admire what you do, and basically this is for me the essential tool, to build music. And obviously Max was the perfect choice to go to, because it was it's not a standard coding program, which I'm not so fond of, and I'm doing some web design, but it's really different. So Max was the perfect tool. I will just share with you a little notes that I have put so that you can see what we'll be talking about a little bit today. So yeah, obviously the influences, ideas, and concepts, I will explain that. So I mean, I had a lot of influences from my studying when I was studying in Italy with a great composer and teacher, Roberto Girolin. And I will just explain a few, let's say, techniques that I use that actually we have learned on that course, and now I'm implementing them in Granurise. And it was funny because some of them are quite old, but they have never been introduced in software, let's say in contemporary software. So it's in a bit I say that Granurise is like a reminiscence of some let's say old ideas that are not implemented today. So yeah, the whole concept is how to build something that would not act that much as a software, but that it will feel like more an instrument. That was the main idea. And obviously the iPad world was kind of perfect, the physical modeling Pat was showing. It was really interesting because he adopted this concept, and I also really like. I think that a lot of interesting apps are coming in the iOS world and in the Android world. So that could be really interesting because you have like a better interaction, a multi-touch interaction with the software, which is kind of nice. And the other thing that I'm involved mostly in, let's say, more experimental and let's say non-conventional music, and I like improvisation. I really like, let's say, the whole cosmetic scene. And so it was kind of hard to find in let's say more conventional software something that will sonically come close to that what I was looking for. So that's another idea why I started the whole process. For now, I will just move on, and let's say we will see the other topics that are here. I will just maybe just quickly. I also like, as I was talking, some semi-prepared stuff, because I like to improvise, but in the same time to have like some directions where you will go, let's say in a live situation or in a sound design situation. So that's another concept. We will see that inside the Granurise. So I would just maybe go in and show a little bit of things. So I will just switch my screen quickly. Yeah, so this is the Granurise main interface, and basically it's divided in 4 sections. I will just show it here. So we have the waveform section, the mixer section, the pitch section, let's say the subdivision section, and the preset section. And we can move on to different subsections here, as you can see. So I will say that let's just listen to let's say a basic example. It's a simple vox count that a friend of mine has recorded, and and then we will move on to the transformation. Basically, this. So let's just listen to it.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So this is a simple vox count till 10, and then we can move already to the granular part, which is basically Granurise has two granular part. One is the, let's say I call it the more tape, the old one, let's say granular engine, and the other is the spectral engine, which is represented here. So we can try to listen to the granular part now. And as I said, we can. I like this idea of, because let's say the granular part is more the fluctuation part. We have like this fluctuation of voices. We can change it. We can change it with the spray. But what I also like is that we can, let's say, and the whole idea of Granurise is that we can combine different layers together. So this was the, let's say, tape granular, and we are now combining with the spectral part. And now both. Seven. So you get the idea, but so I like this concept of mixing together, let's say, these two granulars, the spectral and the granular part. But the one idea that was interesting to me was how to interact with this granulation. So we can record a sample in real time, or we can drag and drop it to the waveform. And one of the key concepts of the program is how is the interaction with it. And one concept that we have developed is the gestural feature. So we have this hand here, which when we turn it on, it will start to record our gesture. So we can move on the same waveform as before. I will just leave it now without audio so that you can see it. And so we are creating some movement on the waveform, which is controlled automatically. As soon as we release the mouse, it will start the playback. So I will just let you hear that. 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, and as soon as we make a new gesture, it will record a new gesture. So let's say that we are here now moving from 8 to 9. So now it will move from 8 to 9.
9, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 9, 8.
And so we are creating, let's say, these structures. I will put, let's say, something more musical now in so that we can get another idea of what we can do with it. Here I have a few samples. This is a simple harmonic guitar. So this is the original sample, and now we will listen to the transformation. Let's say first without the gesture. Rather a little of reverb. And now we can let's say make musically structure A. So we can move with the gesture on different parts of the waveform, and it will record us. So we turn it on. And now it's following our gesture. But in music, we have created, let's say, a loop, but not a loop with the audio, but with our gesture. And well, musically, you know, if we repeat too much, we tend to get boring. So we can alter that gesture with this plus sign. So let's say that this is like a structure A. And we will add now a structure B. So we have created two structures, and we can go on and adding others. So we can create this really evolving sounds slowly. But another concept that was really interesting for me in Granurise is how to make it, let's say, really interactive. And let's say now that we have this gesture loop, we can let's say interact in a live situation or even in a sound design situation. So we can turn off the gesture here with this hand, and now it has stopped our recording. But since we have the play still on, the gesture is still happening. And what we will do, we will, let's say, and this is kind of, so we have prepared the structure, let's say, for a live situation. But now we can interact temporarily with it. And as soon as we will press with our mouse, it will stop. Let's say you can see it now visually, let's say. So as you can see, the gesture has stopped. And now I can move it around and create totally new sonic options. And as soon as I release it, it will go back to the structure that we have created previously. I will just now turn on the audio so that you can hear it. So we have our loop, and now we can temporarily interact with it and change it. So we have moved to another position, and as soon as we release it, it will start repeating again the gesture loop that we have created previously. So now we will release it and we'll go back to the structure. And let's say that we like this structure, so we can store it and prepare it for a live situation. Let's say so. Let's say that this is our structure A, and it's going to be put in a preset. And now we can make something new. So we will move just, let's remove the sum. So we will move just in this part of the sample. And this is, let's say, our structure B. And we can just then leave the gesture and move into a specific position, let's say, in the beginning of the sample. And this would be like the structure C. And now in a live situation, we can recall these structures. So we have like the first moving structure, which is this one, and then the second moving structure, which was on the end, and then we have the static, which was on the beginning. So we can have up to 8 slots that we can recall, but obviously, as we saw previously, we can interact with it in a live situation. So this is really, this was really the concept, how to build a tool that can work well in a live situation, and also to be creative with the sound design. So moving on, as you can see, we have on different parts of the interface, we have these gesture features, gesture signs, let's say, and we can apply them in all of these parts. So we can also apply, let's say, it to the volume. So we turn it on. Here we are on the granular, and we can turn it on. And we are controlling at the same time the volume and the pen. And again, we can mix with the spectral part. And in this way, we are creating let's say an evolving part which evolves. And obviously we can combine different gestures, so we can again combine it with the movement on the waveform. And this is somehow represent the concept that we were talking before. So the concept of, let's say, semi-prepared generative structures so that we can interact in real time. So that's the idea behind behind this movement with gestures. Another thing that let's say I was looking in Granular Synth was the options. The option to control each grain independently. And this is, historically speaking, there was a lot of composers doing that, like Dennis Smalley in Wind Chimes, this technique, I think he called it the pitch stack, where we offset a little bit the pitches. And so to achieve this, we have to separate each grain of the granular part. And so if we listen to that, so we have like, now all grains are synced, and we have moved here, which is now we are controlling all 16 grains here. And this is where it's like 16 voices. We are controlling 16 voices, which are represented up here. So I will just play, I will try to change a little bit the pitch of each voice so you get the idea. And obviously we can still move around on the gesture and get different results, on the waveform, sorry, and get different results. And then again, combining this with the spectral, which will give us more static result, and this more like movement. would just show you another example. So if we move to, let's say that we put the pitches that will go in, let's say in upper. I would just check some questions in the meanwhile. Okay. Okay, so here we have a question. How long is the gesture recording? Basically, the gesture recording can be almost endless. You cannot multiply gestures, and basically the whole process is done for all the Max users. It's done with dict, and so basically the only limitation is I actually don't know how much the dict object can handle data. So, but I think a lot of them, and obviously you can, as we saw, you can also change it. Store it in presets, as we can see here. We can also store it in presets, so we have like different dict recall. So we can have like, yeah, really a lot of gesture storing. Is there a start stop? Not sure what you mean, but actually no, the sample is playing constantly. But basically, what you can do is you can mute it, or yeah, just turn it down. I hope that answers the question. Okay, I think we have, yeah, for now, these are all the questions. We will return then to them later. So I will just move to the next part, which is the volume part, which controls the volume of each grain. This is again a nice effect can be achieved here. Like we have some sort of drawbar organ we can achieve from a sample-based source. So we have put it the pitches that goes up, as we can see here. Sorry, I see now that the question, I mean stop the gesture to do the loop. Yeah, I will show that now. Here is the question. You can stop so you have like, you can turn it on. And now it's working, but you can stop it here. And it will stop recording your gesture. Hope that helps. So moving on, if we put like pitches that goes up, and now we are quantized to the ETU root, ETU major, and we have find this information from here. So we can now create some sort of drawbar organ. So we will increase each voice independently. So I will put just down the volumes. So all the 16 volumes are down, and now we will slowly open each volume independently. So the first one is going to be a bit low. This is this C sharp, and then we can add others. And obviously we have more higher pitches. And obviously we can change pitch. Moving on, we have another. Sorry, I have to stop the music while I'm speaking. It was suggested by JB because otherwise there could be problems. So that's why I'm interrupting. But anyway, I think also in this way it's more clear. At the same time, also we have here done a randomization of the panning. So as you can see here, the pan is moving in random, and we can narrow that down. really more in the center and open it up. So I will just reopen so you can hear it. And we will move next to the next control per voice or per grain. What you can also see here is I think this is a nice representation of the granular synthesis, because if you put all the voices down, you can see here that there is no because there is no volume, you don't have any grain movement in here. But as soon as we turn on let's say the first grain, it's represented in the same color. So this is the white grain, which is now, I will just turn it on so that you can hear it. The low one. And we can then add another. So this is the green one. So you get the idea how grains are coming in, and you can see also visually what is happening. I would just like to move to the next section, which is the EQ section. So this will filter each grain. So we have now running the red grain, and so I will just put that up. I will go to, let's say, more higher grains, so the last ones, and I will filter those. We have also the resonance control. So you get the idea there. And so these are the controls per grain. So we have a pitch control of each grain. And this is, as I was talking before, a technique adopted by Dennis Smalley, which was called pitch stack, which was really, I think it's really an interesting technique, and I couldn't find it in any software. So one thing that I would like to mention also is that you have this. We are now quantized to the root and to the scale, but you have also a non-quantized option, which gives us totally different results. So maybe we can listen also to that. Now we are quantized, now unquantized. So we can get more, let's say, contemporary music results, or which and we can scale the range. So we can go really in let's say microtonality. So we have now we have 24, which is one octave down and up, but we can go really in details and, let's say, just put it to 2 semitones up and down. Let's listen to that. And obviously we can still, all is dependent on the position. So if we move the position on the waveform, we will get a totally new result. Okay, moving on. The next part is the the window section, which is also nice. I would just change the sample so we can get some different results. I will just use the why not the voice again. Or maybe some let's say something more percussive. So let's hear that. This is the original sample, and we have the granular transformation. And adding the spectral. And again, I forgot to mention that also the spectral part the pitch of the spectral can be changed. So I will just show that for a moment. Or we can and let's listen just to the, I forgot also to mention that the pitch can be randomized in a range. So let's listen to that. By holding command, we can move the whole range up and down. And now we were unquantized, but we can quantize it. And obviously you hear the difference. But anyway, let's move now to the window section, which is really nice. And here I would like to switch the screen to let's say my setup, which I normally use. So we will have the Granurise and my controller, which is one of them is it's an iPad. So because we can also draw our own window on the iPad. So we will see that. I will just make this again. So we have different window types. We can choose here, down here. This cycle one is interesting because we can add sinusoid cycles. Just a second. But the cool part here is to use it with an iPad because we can also draw our own window. And if we like what we are doing, we can store that. And let's say this is our first window. Then let's say add a noise one. Then make a normal one. Let's decrease it a bit. And so now we have stored the different types of window, and now we can recall them. So we can move to the first part, which we have drawn on the iPad. The second part, which is noise. The third part, which is let's say the humming, and this cycle one. But so we can, let's say, switch them on the fly. Let's say again in the live situation. But what we can also do is sequence them. So we can here we have a play. And we are in recall mode, and we can sequence these different types that we have stored. And here we have the movement, how fast the node duration is going to be, how fast it's going to be changing. So we can create some really interesting changes here. And we have also, we can go like forward, back and forth, and I like the random part because sometimes this is the random that repeats the notes. So sometimes it's interesting because it stays longer on one direction. I really like this these sequences that are not so fixed. And we can increase the speed. But what is interesting again here is that we can, if we go to the third part, to the morph part, we can morph between these. You will see it visually, so we don't need to hear it. So we are morphing between these parts. So we are putting morphing in between, which creates another different kind of texture. Let's just listen to it. But what is really interesting, as you can see here again, we have the gesture sign, and if we turn it on. If we turn it on, now it will follow our gesture, so it will make the move for us. So now we are recording, and as soon as we release it, and by the way, this is the same true for the iPad, so I will do it also on iPad. So this is like, so basically everything that we see on the computer screen, it's also doable on the iPad. So we can now interact again, let's say lively with it. Now moving on my iPad. Okay, and so you get the idea. And here is one interesting thing that had happened. I also have it on this slide. I will just put it so that you can see it. So this is what I called is error is your friend. So a fight between controls. Basically, I was thinking that this is not going to be possible in Max to let's say automate two parameters at the same time, but it was possible, and that's really interesting because now we can use. I would just switch back to the other screen because basically we can use both of the. So we can use the. I would just remove the random and make it more slower. So we can use the recall, so the sequencing part, but along with the morphing part. So we have like the best of both worlds. And so we are these two parameters now are fighting between them. So if there is going to be enough time for for the morphing part, it will play the morph, and if we increase the recall is going to be mostly played. So this is some concept that I really like. So basically, and I don't see it usually in a conventional software. So we have like two parameters fighting one against other, and also sonically can be really interesting because you can have like more let's say sequenced parts and then mix them with more, let's say, non-sequenced parts. So let's just listen to that. So this is the morphing part. And now we will be adding the sequence part. And as you can hear, they are fighting one with another. But what is interesting, we can stop, let's say, just the morphing part for a second. And so we are more back to the sequence. But then if we turn on again the morphing part, it will fight with the sequence, which it's a concept that I really like. And we can do it also in bursts. So if we go now to the recall part, we can stop the recall. And so we are now less sequenced, so to say. Okay. This is for now. I will just see if there are some other questions. Okay, maybe JB, you can handle the question for me if there's some, or do you have some questions?
I have some question for you. I did answer some in the chat. I think
that's great.
This is correct. Thanks. But you know, there's a question I should have asked at the beginning. Okay, cool. And which is to describe, you know, in your words, granular synthesis, and also what we call MPE controllers is very jargon. So I think that, you know, it'd be good to explain what makes them stand apart as controllers.
Okay.
And why you use them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would just switch now to the MPE part. I think that you know, this presentation has already been done that in a way what granular synthesis is. So with this, you know, voice separation, and if you put down the volumes, so we are just moving inside this range that we select, and now we are moving little voices. It's like, you know, a choir. So this would be like the bass, and then the sopranos and so on. And we can add them. So and let's say at first one voice is singing, and then we can add other ones and sum them together. Let's say in a canon way. Yeah, the MP integration here is I have here the Seaboard block, which is really nice to control. And I will just move now to the because I think we are running a bit out of time. I will just now switch to the synth part. So because this is basically till now we have seen the Granurise as more as a, let's say, as an effect, but we can also use it as a synthesizer, a granular synth. And so I will move to that now. I would just like to mention one thing that I have forgot before, which is kind of really interesting. And I will put, let's say, a more melodic sample into it so that we can hear is, I forgot to mention in the pitch domain. So I will put just, by the way, this is really an interesting sample because it's really lo-fi. I have recorded with my you know, iMac here microphone. So, but it was interesting what you can do with this quite lo-fi sound. So I will just switch because this is in C. This is I will just switch the root node to C3. And first, let's listen to the original sample, which is really lo-fi. Okay. This is the original sample with me a little bit breathing. Just 3 tones, nothing special. But I would like just to mention that, let's say, on the pitch part, we have like that all the pitches are running at the same time, like this. But we have also, so we can change the pitch, obviously. And now it's unquantized, but we can quantize it. So you have like, you can see the notes here. You can see the notes here. So we have like a C major scale, and now we can sequence that. So here we have the sequence button. So this is, so now basically we are each voice it's played step by step. And obviously, if we move the position of the sample, we get new results. This was just to show the sequencer, which is kind of, I think, is kind of interesting. But yeah, this basically leads us to the because I think a lot of Granurise as you know, like a standalone instrument that I can build like whole sound designs or compositions on it, and so we can think of all that we have heard till now as a, let's say, as a, you know, as a another musician playing, as we were hearing now, the sequence playing along with a little bit of spectral integration. But now let's move to, let's say, to the more, let's say, instrument playing part, as you suggest, and to the MPE part, which I think is really interesting in that context. So I will just load. So now we have switched to the synth part, and basically here we can all the sound sources that we have heard till now. So basically this one, or the spectral, which is now an octave down. Let's make it, can be sent to the synth part, which then can be played on the Seaboard. So now we have opened here with the volume the spectral part, and here we have the mixer, and we can now play. So we can now play this sound, but we can transform it obviously with the pitch. Let's just add a little bit of reverb. The expressivity of the, obviously, of the MPE, so we can really dive in, you know, like really make soft sounds and then push it further. And bend a little bit the note. And basically we are using, you know, just this lo-fi sample, but it can sound really powerful when you combine it in this. So now we were using the spectral part, which is this one, but we can also use the granular part, which is this one. Okay, there's a mute. So let's listen just to that, but not here. So we can leave. We could leave that as a background if we like. So like, I think of that as you know, in painting, you have like a horizontal background, and then you build on it. But let's say, just for the sake of example, let's now listen just to it as a transformation through the synth part. And immediately you can hear that this is more moving because of the granular, and again combining, let's say, the spectral and granular here in the interface give us new results. And actually, so we are now combining 2 layers, and as you will see later, we can combine up to 8 layers of different sounds. So let's just listen to the combined one. But what is interesting, that everything that we do before, so let's say in the granular part, can still apply to the transformation that we will play later. So if you put something like, let's say, this random window that we have created, we can now use this as our source for our synth. So we will have. I will just use these controllers to add slowly. So now we have the clear part, the spectral part, and we will slowly add the granular part. Which is affected by these movements. Let me just go on. So we can add a little bit of, let's say, noise that we have created from our granular part, which I think it's really interesting, because that part is constantly moving and evolving. So we are adding another layer of expressivity, let's say. I would just move quickly on to the, in addition to this, let's say, sample sources, we can also add 4 oscillators to that. And so I would just show maybe quickly, because it's interesting for the MPE part, the FM. And in here we have MPE matrix, which is, we open it here. And it's already said that it will control the scale and the index. So I will just turn off for now the spectral part. So the harder that we press it, the scale of the index, the scale and the index of the FM are going to be controlled with our pressure. But the cool part is that we can change. So now we have really only set a low threshold for that, but we can go up and slowly, you know, get more drastic results. So go slowly. So where we are up, we are controlling. We have a more like a static sound, but we go down, we are controlling. And we can add also the frag shift, let's say. So we can really get some crazy sounds out of it. Just one. I would like to show you also, because the FM is kind of interesting in Granurise, because besides the normal, and this is again something that I couldn't find in more conventional softwares about the FM engine. One thing that is really cool, that you can mix obviously the common oscillators like the sine, the saw, and so on. But you can in Granurise we have put an option to mix also the sample sources. So for now, I will just switch. So we will now mix. So our carrier is going to be the spectral, which is this one. And the modulator is going to be, let's say, a sine wave. And let's try that. I'll just remove the matrix. And again, this can be also controlled in the matrix, how much. But I think this is really interesting because we can combine in a way we can, let's switch now. Let's add a sine wave as a carrier, and the spectral part, which is basically the spectra on the waveform, is going to be our modulator. Let's try that. And you are getting quite some nice sounds from it. But what is interesting that if we move on the waveform, we are basically modulating the modulator. So we are changing the sound of the FM now, the modulator of the FM, with our movement on the waveform. And again, we can apply the gesture. So we can apply the gesture, and so we are basically having let's say a moving modulator, which is going to be moved for us automatically because we have applied the gesture. And again, we can interact with the matrix and get further movement with the MPE. And I think that this is really an interesting approach, with I mean, the expressivity of the electronic music was always a problem till now, I think, till the MPE, and I'm really looking forward to what will happen with MIDI 2, and so I know that you are involved, JB, so really looking forward how things will evolve also on let's say on a hardware side. So that's going to be definitely interesting. Just one more thing about MPE, which I think is really interesting in Granurise, is the granular part. I will just remove the animation for a bit. And this is what is interesting, that we can set the position on the waveform with our movement on the MPE, let's say on the Seaboard. For now, I will just remove the FM and go back to the granular. So with our movement, we can navigate. I will just increase a bit the length that we can choose, and maybe I will change the sample so it's more obvious. Just a second. Yeah, here it is. So we have again the guitar sample from before, this one. And as we will see now, we can move to different positions of the sample with our movement on the Seaboard. I hope you can see that. So we will start first voice. I will go just a bit loud. So we are moving to the different part with our I will just remove the reverb, so it's more and move it a little bit here where it's more drastic change. Okay, now I see why I'm getting a strange sound, because we are still listening to the transformation of the window. Let's me clear that. Okay, hopefully now it's going to be a little bit more obvious. And as you can see, we are moving the position that we have set with our on the Seaboard. So we are moving on the sample from the Seaboard. And this is work with 4-voice polyphony. I will just increase a little bit the sample. Yeah, so it's going to be much wider, so we can see a better example. So now we will move on the Seaboard with our on the waveform with the Seaboard. Just a second. Okay. Let's see now. So we are transforming the with our Seaboard movement. We are changing the position on the waveform. I think that's interesting. So we are moving up and down. As you can see, I'm moving with my finger, and that is displayed on the waveform, or the movement on the waveform. And if I add more fingers, I get different positions. So I can choose the positions with my fingers, up to 4 voices. I think that's that's an interesting concept of MPE. So how you can treat it, let's say, in a granular software. Hope that answers your question, JB.
Yes, it's great. There was another question in the chat about the CPU usage, and that I will fold another question in there. You have made Granurise as a max patch initially, so it does run quite differently from plugins. Could you say a word about both? I mean, I think it's also linked. If you were doing this in another in C++, for example, the CPU could be different. But
yeah, sure.
Two questions for you. Yeah,
sure. I mean, obviously I mean, as I was talking before, the main problem is obviously Max is not a low-code environment, but recently I think a lot of good is happening with the gen option, and basically the effect we haven't touched today, but maybe in the next time. But we have to listen to them in a bit. It's made in Gen, so it's using less resources. But I think in the Max environment, I will actually show you. It's working quite nicely. Although now the problem is a bit the live stream. So this is the CPU that is using now. So it's working really nicely. The problem is a bit in the Max for Live environment because we cannot use the parallel processing which are using so that we can use different cores, which is allowed in Max, but in Ableton obviously it does not work. So in Ableton there are some constraints that we have to we had to face, but recently we come to a really, let's say, stable and a really nice working version which works really good in both environment. And basically whoever gets Granurise basically get the both versions, so gets the Max for Live version and the Max version. So if you really need a lot of, let's say, CPU if you're doing basic stuff, what we have seen today, it will work fine in any environment. But if you do like a lot of, and I do this quite a lot, I call it a stress test. So if you move this and move this, I'll just put the master down, and so a lot of is happening. And I think that mostly also in the Max for Live environment, the problem is actually the graphic side. So. So as you can see, a lot of is happening also graphically. So that can be a problem. But we are currently working on a lot of optimizations in that regard, because we are finding a way, to remove these animations. So if you have like a CPU problem, you can remove these animations and get just the range. And also we are optimizing the backend. The cool thing is that now also Boštjan Pirner, as I mentioned, is working on this project, and he's really a good I would consider a better programmer than I am, and good in math. So we are optimizing a lot of the engines, and so we are getting really nice results. In fact, there is going to be also let's say a more stable and powerful release for Windows. So, but yeah, definitely obviously, as you suggested, let's say in a low-end environment, it will get a more, let's say, a better performance. But it's doing really well now. Actually, we are quite surprised how much thing can we do inside it, and it works. It's really cool. So basically, the whole thing works really well now. What was the other question? Sorry, JB.
So there were so thank you for answering those questions. There was a question as well about the iPad and what people see on the iPad. So people guessed that it was Mira, but
Yeah, sure.
just to be clear for everybody else, could you explain what's happening on the iPad as opposed to what's happening on the screen on the left?
Yeah, but basically the iPad is basically you get Mira. It's a really cool app developed by Sam, I think, at Cycling, and it's basically everything is displayed everything that we see on the computer, which is this screen here, is basically the same on the iPad. So you get like a full. That's why it's called Mira. You get total mirror of the computer screen. But the best part that the iPad interaction is multi-touch. So I can move multiple parameters at the same time. I can record my gestures for multiple parameters at the same time, as you can see here. So it offers another way of expressivity, which is really nice, I think, and that's where the iPad music, I think, it shines in that way. The only problem is that Mira is quite. We have to make some choices to include Mira for some objects, and so this is also what's a little bit, let's say, graphic CPU problem. But we are also working on, sometimes Mira is not so stable, so it can be a problem from time to time. But we are also working on a Lemur integration, so that is going to be even more rock solid. But also Mira now it's working really well since we've done a lot of optimization, so it's let's say a more direct impact on what you do. And I forgot to mention another controller which is really nice. It's the blocks integration, which is here, which offers also some really interesting concepts, let's say, in music making, because you can change what you are controlling inside Granurise and that is displayed to the blocks. So it's kind of really seamless integration between the software and the hardware. So as you can see here, we have the whole waveform displayed on the blocks, but we can also zoom in in our computer and get even more detail view on the blocks and move that in that regard. And the cool thing that we can control that with some extra parameters. I will just show you quickly the blocks integration. I will just go back. So we are controlling now the volume on the blocks. But what is cool that we can control so the X and the Y, so the volume and the pan, and with our pressure we can control the send. I will use the maybe here on the spectral side is going to be even more obvious. So now I will increase a little bit the volume and add let's say a little bit more of reverb so that it's more obvious. I'll move to this part, and now we will open on the blocks, so we are controlling the volume now. And with our press, so the harder that we press it, you can see, I will just move, you can see that we are now increasing with our pressure, not with the mouse. I'm just putting there the mouse, and you can see it, the send to the effect. And so we have like 3D dimensional mixer, which I think is it gets really creative in a way, because you're controlling at the same time the volume, the pan, and the pressure is controlling the send. And you can do obviously for all the parameters. You are actually playing the mixer, which is, I think, it's really interesting. And one thing that's also interesting about blocks, that we can go, let's say we can switch, as you will see when I will press here, the blocks layout in here will change to that part. So we'll go to the pitches. So as you can see now, I'm controlling the pitches here, so I can change dynamically what I'm controlling. And obviously I can combine both, so so it gives, again, yeah, talking about MPE, it gives a really nice expressivity also on the, let's say, on the mixing part, which is usually not so creative, but I think in this regard, in Granurise, it can get really creative. I will just show one last example of the blocks, which I think is really interesting, because so we have 16 voices, as we hear. Here we are controlling the volume. I will just put that only the granular work. So we can obviously, in a way, mute them with our single click. So let's recreate the drawbar effect from before. So, and we will see that on the blocks it's even more interesting, because so we can open. But in the blocks, we are not controlling only the volumes, but we are controlling also the pen with our movement left and right. And this is polyphonic, so we are independent. So we are creating the movement, and we are not controlling just this, but also at the same time the filter with our pressure. I will just switch to the filter. And increase the resonance so that it's more obvious. And now I will go back to the blocks. And so when I'm increasing the volume, let me just, if I press harder, I'm filtering that. So if I switch to the filter, you will see what is happening. With my pressure, I'm filtering the. I will just use fewer voices. So we are controlling at the same time the volume, the pan, and with our pressure, the filter. So we get really, so we are controlling 3 parameters at the same time with just one finger. And obviously we can do it multi-touch, so every finger will have like a 3D control of that. So I think that in that regard, the MPE integration and the blocks integration, it's really interesting. So really good job from Rolly. I think they did a really nice controller. Hope that answers.
There is one more question coming in. So the effects that you were talking about before showing blocks, are these VST plugins? This is a question from Klang Schmiede.
Yeah, thanks for asking. These are basically not VST plugins. These are Gen made. So Gen is an let's say low code environment inside Max, and so they are made in Max actually. I can just quickly maybe show some of the effects. So here we have just so it's going to be more obvious. Let's say we have let's say some interesting concept in effects. This one is that we have a let's say a shimmering effect. And the other that I quite like, it's we have two types of delays. One is let's say more the digital here, and the other is more tape based. So let's listen to them. I would just let's put something percussive in so that it's even more obvious. Just a Max example, the drum brass. So this is a sample. And let's send them to the effect. And we have and again combining them with the granular. So you get the idea there. Yeah, but basically these are all made in inside Max. Just one last thing that I think it's interesting about the effect is the option to just temporarily open them. I will put it. So we can. They were like like pedals, so we can just click them here and open them. But the cool thing is that we can also, again, automate this process and put it in a sequence. So let's say. And combining different options can be interesting with, let's say. So you get, yeah, there. But yeah, what I think about it's interesting for me about the effects is that yeah, we can change them again with presets, and so I actually musically don't like so much when I hear the effect is obvious, but when we morph it as we saw before with the window, we get totally new results. That's I think what is really interesting. And again, when we morph them, we can get really new results. So you won't hear that it's let's say it's a delay or a reverb or something, because you basically will be mixing between parameters. Hope that helps. Back to you, JB.
This is great. Yeah, there was another question from Klang Schmiede, a follow-up question asking if it's possible to control these effects via in and out, so outside of the software. So send, I suppose, some data to it via an external controller. Yeah, no, basically no. You have to enter inside. Yeah, you have to put a buffer inside or record a buffer. So here you can record a buffer to use them.
but yeah, maybe in the future it's not a big problem, you know, to put it as an extra input that will go directly. I think we have had it in back in the days, but then we have removed it because it was too much options. So, but yeah, it's an option definitely.
Okay, great. Well, I have one last question to conclude. So, congratulations. First, it's a very impressive and complete and complex piece of software, and I wish you all the best for the release. My question is, what's next for you? Do you? I mean, have you turned from being a composer to being a developer now, or are you going to combine the two career? What's next for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, basically, I think I both. You know, I really like the concept of you know, of developing things, but I also like, you know, then to use it and to interact with them. So yeah, I think, you know, back in the days, I think, you know, Beethoven was not the time Beethoven. I'm a bad composer, but back in the days, you know, Beethoven was shrinking or no, extending the piano range, you know, to have some sort of his own sound, and this is what I like. You know, I think Max and again, I repeat, it's a great tool because it lets you create the environment quite easily that you can use in a creative way. So I think we'll definitely combine both words, and I'm really enjoying that other people are liking, you know, my musical ideas and transformed into a software. So I really like that, and so yeah, I would like to thank all the users in this occasion because they're really satisfied and with the results, and so this is yeah, a huge recognition for me, and also yeah, it was already from you and from all these companies. So yeah, thanks again.
Well, thank you very much, Andrej. Alan Harrison says it's an amazing mind fry. So
Great.
I suppose that summarizes it, and I'm sure it's in a very kind way. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone for joining in this fifth live stream. We have another one on Monday, Monday 27th of April. We will welcome Yuri Suzuki, who will present the Easy Record Maker, which allows everyone to engrave vinyl at home. So he released his product in Japan. It's not yet over here in Europe or in the US, but it will be soon. And Yuri is an amazing designer who's worked with will.i.am and many others to build musical instruments. So you're going to talk about design and about this great product. So you can also watch the past live streams. They're all on our channel. Last week we had physical models with Pat Scandalis, and it was a great talk. Last week we had sonification with Milton Mermikides and Phil and Kane, which is also fantastic. So again, thank you to Andrej for coming in today. Thank you for coming to these talks and asking questions. It's really really great. I hope you all are safe in lockdown and enjoying making music and being creative. And I will see you next week.